There's an extraordinary essay of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that answers one of the questions that we've been bothered with during this learning this Gemara, this sugya, this discussion in the Gemara about the four species, the Arba Minim, the Daled Minim, that we wave on Sukkot. And the Gemara talks about each of them and gives details as to the rules about each of these items, that they have certain criteria that they have to meet. And the question that we got stuck with is, why is the arava, the willow, different than the other three? That the willow seems to be, we're much more lenient with it. And that the rules, the criteria of the arava, or at least one of the main criteria of the arava, that the Torah itself uses the word for, arve nachal, the stream, it doesn't seem like it makes a difference at all if it grows by a stream or not. And it basically, all it means is that that the majority of these types of aravas grow by the stream. So the Torah uses the term stream, and the commentaries are understanding it to mean that because the majority grow by the stream, that's why the Torah uses that word, but you don't have to use actually the aravas that grow by the stream. And what we're bothered with is all the other species, whatever the Torah says, we say, oh, it means so precise, it has to be that way, it must be, all of a sudden by the stream, all of a sudden we're going to translate it differently and to say, oh, this doesn't have to grow by the stream. It's the arava, that majority of them, the willow, that majority of them grow by streams, and you don't need to have yours grow by the stream. You could even take from other places. It just seems surprising that we're not keeping that same method of understanding the Torah in a very literal way. And here by the willow, we're not. We're not understanding it in the literal way, and we're not taking that to be a law that is that's important. And to the extent that maybe in the other cases, if it doesn't fit the criteria, it's not kosher. And here, not only we're not telling you you should do it that way, but there's no need to even look for a willow that grows by the stream. So this is the question that was bothering us, and it's here brought in a essay of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe goes through the four species, and he says, think about it. The esrog is called pre-eitz hadar, and there's two major rules that we know about the esrog. One we learned together in the Gemara, that the esrog has to be a finished fruit. It has to be a pre-eitz, that's nigmar hapri. The fruit has to be completed. You can't cut it off at a very early stage where it's not going to ripen. It has to be complete. And of course, there's discussion about if it's green, is that considered okay because it is going to ripen even it's going to ripen even when it's after it's cut off. So that may be good enough. But there is a rule, and in that rule, this esrog has to be that way. It has to fit that rule that it's a nigmar hapri. However you want to learn that's considered completed, that's the esrog that you use needs to be that way. And you can't say, well, I'm from a tree of esrog trees. Mine happens to be a much under-ripened, premature esrog. No, the esrog has to be nigmar hapri, has to be ripe. Completed its growth, to be more precise. Another rule about esrog is it has to be hadar, it has to be beautiful. That we saw in the Mishnah. It can't be a yavesh. Yavesh is puzzle. If it's dried out, it's invalid. So we have the laws of esrog, that your esrog needs to fit these criteria. The lulav is kapos tamarim. It has to be a frond of a date palm. And the Gemara understands it to mean that you can't use fronds that have grown to the extent that they're hardened. And they no longer can be bent back and tied together, that it's fit to tie it together with the spine. And so that's one of the rules. Kafos literally means bound, has to be able to be bound together. The leaves, even though they maybe could weaken and get a little separated, but as long as they're able to be bent back, it's kosher. That's one of the rules about the lulav. Another rule about the lulav that not everyone agrees with, but the Rogatchover, who's a famous gaon, a famous brilliant scholar, he held that the lulav has to actually make fruit. There has to be dates. It has to be able to give dates. Has to have dates. The branch, the date palm branch that you're using is from a tree that actually has. It's not just the species that makes dates. It's that tree has to be a date palm. Has to be actually of dates, a date palm. And according to him, that's I don't know how. Maybe we can assume that. I don't know how they know. I don't know if the distributors are careful to follow this opinion, but this is the opinion of the Rogatchover, and basically it comes out that your date palm has to be from a tree that actually gives off dates, and so we see how precise we have to be. That each item is not just from the right family; it is the perfect criteria. The anafetzav is the hadassim. The hadassim have to be avos, braid, like a braid. They have to be 3 coming out of one juncture. Each juncture has 3 leaves coming out of it, and if not, it's puzzle. It's invalid. And so we see this concept of each item needs to fit all the rules. What about the arava, the willow? What does it say? Arve nachal. And arve nachal, you would think means willows of the stream. No. Here, all of a sudden, the poskim, the commentaries, arve nachal, it's willows that majority grow by the stream. At least that's the way the Rambam seems to mention it. There is an opinion in the Gemara that arve, the plural, includes even those that don't grow by the stream. So there is such an opinion there that says nachal means stream, and it should grow by the stream. If it doesn't grow by the stream, it's also kosher because it says the word arve. So we sort of learn from an extra letter, plural, that it's inclusive. The question is that even that's very nice that we have a word that will include the permit to use other types of araves. But even so, that doesn't really answer the question, because the question would be, why are we adding on other types if this is the way it's supposed to be? In other words, the Torah uses the word nachal. Why should we then add another word to include the willows that grow on a field, not by the stream? And not by the other types of species. The other types of species, they have to be exactly that. This one I'm saying, no, it's include. Why is that the Torah allows it and adds that letter to teach us that you can include others? What would be the reason behind that? But even without that opinion, the accepted halacha view is that we don't learn from arve, the extra letter. Somehow we just assume that the Torah's teaching of nachal is not that it has to grow by the nachal. It's it's basically from the right family. It's a willow. The majority of them grow by the nachal. So that's the big question here, and so in order to, and that's what we were bothered with when we were learning this in the Gemara, and how do we know to differentiate between this and the others? So the answer that the Rebbe gives is based on a medrash. The Rebbe says that sometimes you find that the revealed Torah, there are questions that are left unanswered, but in the remez or soid of Torah, sometimes you find the answer to these questions. And here would be an example where in the Pnimius HaTorah, in the inner dimension of Torah, you find an explanation to this. And that is that the famous Medrash, the Medrash says that each of the four species are symbolizing a certain type of Yid. Every Jew fits into one of these categories. And the concept of the Lulav and Esra, the concept of the Daled Minim is to join together unity. The term in the Medrash is Yechapru Elu Al Elu, atone for each other. We all join together and we bring a lot of pleasure to Hashem. And what are each of these types? So, of course, many of you know this. The Lulav symbolizes someone who has Torah knowledge because the Lulav symbolizes a good taste. The Lulav is the date palm. Dates taste delicious. The Arava, the Hadassim, the myrtle, symbolizes a good smell, symbolizes someone who has a lot of good deeds, gives a lot of charity, is kind, is helpful, caring, does a lot of mitzvahs. And someone who does a lot of mitzvahs, they have a good smell. It's nice to be around them. And then you have the Yid that has both. That's the esrog. That's the esrog. It has a good smell and a good taste. It has a flavor, gives flavor. It has a good smell, it has a nice aroma. So that's the esrog. And that means someone has good deeds and mitzvahs. And then you have the arava that seems to have none of those qualities. So they all we join them together and we unite. Now, if you think about those four, three of them symbolize a person who has something to show for himself. They symbolize a person's character, his revealed character. This one studies Torah, this one does mitzvahs, this one does both. So those three species, they all symbolize someone who has what to show. It's about what can he give to the world? What does he give? The Arava symbolizes the Yid that doesn't really give anything, so to speak. He's not, doesn't have anything to show for himself. It's about the fact he's a Yid. That's all he has. It's about who he is, not what he has to show. His essence. That's really all the Arava has. So what does that symbolize? It symbolizes the Jew that doesn't have Torah, doesn't have good deeds. He might have even been kidnapped as a child, grew up in a non-Jewish neighborhood, and nevertheless, he is considered a part of this. He's part of nevertheless, he joins together with the other types. Now, why is it that this Yid who doesn't have anything to show for himself is joining together with the other types? Because each of these others, they're showing something off, but he also has something to show off. What is he showing off? He's showing off what the essence of a Yid is. That it's not about the external. It's about the essence. So they all join together. Now, when we take this a step further, when we go into the halachas of each of these species, so what comes out is that when it comes to those three species, they each symbolize a certain type of Yid that has something to show off, and they are a certain style. This is a Torah Yid, this is a mitzvah Yid, this is a both Yid, an esrog Yid that has both. So when it comes to halacha, they have to fit that criteria because that's what we're representing. So the esrog Yid has to represent Torah and mitzvahs. The lulav Yid, the lulav Jew has to represent the Torah, he has to have Torah. The Hadassim Jew has to have mitzvahs. The Arava Yid, he doesn't need to have anything really. So it's all about where he comes from, his family, he's part of the Jewish people. So the same thing is the laws of these species. The Arava has no specific laws that really apply to him. It's just about who he's from. So therefore, when it says in the Torah that he has to be by the stream, it means he has to. It means not that he has to have grown up by the stream, but he has to be part of the family of willows that grow by the stream, because that's what he's symbolizing. He's symbolizing someone that didn't grow by the stream, but he's from the family that grew by the stream, that grew in the system, from the family that has a system that has a stream. He's from the right family, Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. So because it's symbolizing that type of Jew, so therefore the law of the point that represents it is going to be a similar idea to what it's representing. It's representing the Jew that didn't grow up in a Jewish neighborhood, and he doesn't know anything about Judaism. And so therefore the Arava that's representing him is going to be an Arava that didn't grow up by the stream, but it's from the family that majority grow by the stream. He's from Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. So therefore, if it's symbolizing that, it makes sense that the halacha, when it comes to the stream halacha, that halacha is all about what family he's from, and not about who he is, because it's symbolizing the Jew that's not growing up by the stream in the system, in the Jewish community. So the other types of species each one has their rules that it has to fit that criteria, because that's what he's representing. So now we have a beautiful understanding of the reason why the Yarova doesn't have to actually grow by the stream. And based on this, we can say the Rebbe brings a Hira, a teaching, a lesson. What's the lesson from this whole halacha, this law? That number one, we need to know that every single Yid is important. We have to unite with them. And even an Ish Pashut, even simple Yidden, because the 4 species teach us that you need to have all 4. And if you don't have all 4, you can't make a bracha. So just like we need to have a lulav and an esrog and a hadassim, you also need to have the Arava, the simple Jew, the Anoshim Pshutim, the simple Jew. In fact, it's brought in Hasidic writings from the previous Rebbe that the concept of Anoshim Pshutim, people that are simple, it's basically a play on the words, that the simple people are the simplicity, the pshitos, the simplicity of simple people, of Anoshim Pshutim, reaches the pshitas ha'atzmos, reaches the simplicity of Hashem, so to speak, the essence. They're able to reach all the way up there to the essence, emphasizing how great it is, how simple people are also great, maybe even greater. They can reach a higher level, so to speak. Their simplicity allows them to go much higher. Other people get stuck in the revelations. The simple people, they can reach to the simplicity of the essence of Hashem. They don't get sidetracked. They don't have anything to be sidetracked from. They can only they focus right on the essence, because that's all they don't have any of the external things. So that's a saying of previous Rebbe, emphasizing, showing how beautiful even a simple Yid is, and they reach a high level. So the first thing that the Rebbe says is about we need every single Yid. We should connect to every single Yid, even the simple Yidden. And the second thing he says is that how do you connect to the Yidden? Each of these Yidden, in a certain sense, in a different way, because the Yidden that have these qualities, the lula, the lulav, the esrog, the hadassim, they all have the qualities, the Torah, the mitzvahs, both. So those Yidden, you're connecting to them in a way that it's sort of based on who they are, what they have to show for themselves. That's how you know them. That's how you relate to them. We relate to people in our, in areas where what they have to show off. That's how what they have to, who they are, what they're about. That's how you relate to people. What about the Arava Yid? The Arava Yid, you have to realize that you're going to relate to him in a sense, even though it's not going to be connected to Torah and mitzvahs. You're going to get friendly with him. You want to fulfill this idea of uniting together. It's unite with him. Don't think of him as, I need him to do this mitzvah. I need him to do that mitzvah. I need him to learn Torah. It's not about that yet. Uniting with him because he's a Yid. That's why you're uniting with him. And in other words, that's what he shows. That's what he has to show. It's all about his essence. That's why you're uniting with him, is because that's what he is. He's the essential Jew. And your Avos Yisrael, your mitzvah of loving a Yid, is fulfilled with him without looking at any of those additional elements of mitzvahs, Torah. You're connecting with him because he's a Yid. If you think about it, in a certain sense, this is maybe unheard of in certain, this was said in 1950, 1952. And at that time, many of the from Yidden, the Orthodox Jews, didn't want to connect with those that didn't keep Torah mitzvahs. So here, what the Rebbe was saying was revolutionary, that not only have to connect with such a Yid, but don't even connect with him in a way that you're doing a mitzvah with him, because he might say no. Connect with him because he's a Yid, just like the Arava. We don't make the Arava to be a certain way. He's the Arava, and we connect with him. The Lulav, the Esrog, Hadassim, and the Arava, they all join together. We shake them. So this was revolutionary at that time, this concept. And it all boils down to this concept of the Arava, who it symbolizes the Yid that doesn't have much to show for himself. All he is this essential Jew. He has the essence. And in a certain sense, the essence is a unique quality. As we saw, that the pshitos of Anoshim Pshutim, the simplicity of them reaches the highest levels. And so when you connect with him, have it mitzad Avos Yisrael. You're not connecting to him because you're going to get him to do a mitzvah. He's freeing. He's not. No, unite with him. He's an Arava. Just bring the Arava in. Oyevas abriyos is the term. Love creations. Love him. He's a creation of Hashem. He's a Yid. And then it says Mekarvan l'Torah. Ultimately, he'll connect to Torah. But our job is to unite with the four species. Now, this all fit well. It was a beautiful it's a mind-blowing, really, a revolutionary idea. And it all fits well with the way we explained the lulav is a entity, is an item that gives off dates. And so every one of the three other species have all the qualities within them. And the Arav is the only one that it's from the right family. However, there is the other opinion. The Chassam Sofer, he holds that the lulav does not have to give off dates. Could be from a palm tree, a date palm. Of course, it has to be a date palm, but that tree didn't necessarily give off fruit, and it's still kosher because it's from the family of the date palm. So now we're stuck because this whole beautiful explanation fits very well if you learn the other way. But if you learn this way, then you're stuck because the Arava is, we're not necessitating it to have the criteria as long as it's from the right family. The lulav is also in a certain sense that way, that it has to be from the right family. It has to be from a family that is a date palm. But even if it itself didn't give off fruit, it's also good. So in other words, now we're connecting the Arava to the lulav. And now, so the explanation, sort of the previous explanation, needs to be tweaked to fit this new, this other opinion. And so why are the esrog and the hadassim, why do they need to be have the specific rules? And the lulav and the arava don't have to have these specific rules. Why is that? What is the reason for that? So the thing is that, now we have to differentiate not 3 versus 1. We have to differentiate 2 and 2. So the thing is, it's a little complicated, but the idea is that the lulav, who does he symbolize? The lulav symbolizes someone that has Torah. He's learned Torah before, he has a lot of knowledge. He has knowledge, but he doesn't have any good deeds. The Arava has no knowledge and no good deeds. If we think about it in terms of deed, of action, neither of them have any mitzvahs. The lulav doesn't do tzedakah, doesn't do chesed. He's just knowledgeable. The Arava has nothing, doesn't have Torah, doesn't. So they don't have any good deeds. So in a certain sense, they don't have much to show off for themselves, especially when it comes to this type of a mitzvah, which is all about a mitzvah, an action mitzvah of the lulav. The lulav in Esther, it's all about this mitzvah of the Dalet, I should call it the Dalet Minim. It's a mitzvah mises, it's a mitzvah of action. And these two don't have actions. They don't have maisim tovim. They have, one has Torah, one doesn't, but neither of them have action, have maisim tovim. They don't have good deeds. So if the mitzvah, the Dalet Minim, is this mitzvah of maisim maisius, it's a mitzvah of action, it sort of doesn't fit to even have for these two to participate in this mitzvah. And so in order to, it goes a step further. Really, you would say that maybe they ruin the mitzvah, because we know there's a rule that Aaron HaKoyin, Aaron could not, he could not be the one to fulfill the mitzvah of Parah Aduma, the red heifer. It couldn't be done through Aaron. Aaron couldn't do it. Why not? Because you can't have someone who sinned with the golden calf be the one who's going to bring the atonement for the sin, which is the red heifer. So that same idea, again, we don't have to get into that concept, but the idea that you're going to use a lulav Jew and an arava Jew for the mitzvah of good deeds, for this action mitzvah, it sort of like ruins it. These people have no good deeds. You're going to include them in the mitzvah, in the Dalet Minim mitzvah, which is all about good deeds. So you could ask that it really is not apropos. Maybe they don't belong here. You know, you want to symbolize mitzvah. This is a mitzvah of action. So we have the hadassim that are all about good deeds. Okay, the esrog has Torah and good deeds, so maybe it adds to the you know, when you understand the mitzvah, you do it with much more it leads to better good deeds. You know, you understand the mitzvah, so you could say the esrog and the hadassim, those are the right species for this mitzvah. But it adds in the completion of the action when you understand it. So the hadassim and the esrog fit very well with the mitzvah, with this mitzvah, this action. But you could say maybe the lulav and the arava don't really belong here. How could that be? We need all four. So the answer is that you do include the arava, of course, in the arava and the lulav. And the reason why they can be included is because their essence overrides their actions, meaning we're including all Jewish people to do this action mitzvah. These are below. You would think initially the way we're thinking is these people don't even have any good deeds. Leave them out. But here the point is no. We're looking to about all Yidden, and we're saying they don't have good deeds. Yeah, they don't have good deeds. They're the essence. They're the essence of what a Yid is. That the essence overrides the good deeds. In other words, what are you looking? You're looking for good deeds. These are even greater than good deeds. They have the essence of what it means to be a Yid. Meaning, when you see them, you see the essence of a Yid. You don't see the good deeds. True. But in a certain sense, they have the essence, which is more essential. It overrides the fact that the concept of good deeds. And so the Aravos symbolize someone who's just the essential Jew. He only has the essence of what it means to be a Jew. And the lulav, interestingly enough, we're connecting him with a person who knows Torah, a good taste, which symbolizes someone who has Torah, but he has no good deeds. And we're saying that his involvement here in the Dalet Minim, it's not about who he is because he has no good deeds. And that's the same thing with the lulav, the law about the lulav, that the lulav doesn't need to give off fruit. He doesn't have good deeds. He doesn't give off fruit. In other words, the representative, the representation of the person who doesn't have good deeds is the lulav that maybe doesn't even give off fruit. Doesn't have to give off fruit. He's from the right family. So, and it's all about the essence that overrides the actions. And why do we need a lulav and an arava? Both of them don't have good deeds. But there's the arava Jew that has no good deeds and no Torah. And then you have the lulav Jew that he does have Torah. And by uniting these together, uniting all of them together, what ends up happening is the arava Jew, his essence is revealed because you see him together with the lulav, with the esrog Jew and the hadassim Jew. You see the arava Jew there. So what comes out is that he's the arava Jew. His essence is revealed. You see that he's a yid. He doesn't have actions. You're not impressed with his actions. You're just see him as a yid. The lulav Jew also is revealed because he's also joined together. And not only because he's joined together, but also because he has Torah, it also reveals his essence. So again, they don't have good deeds, but their essence is revealed. And because their essence is revealed, it overrides the fact that they don't have the good deeds. And therefore we have all four joined together to bring out the different categories of the Jewish people that are all going to fulfill together this mitzvah of unity, uniting together, and fulfilling this this mitzvah of the Dalet meaning. So, similar to this, with the person who has Torah knowledge is similar to that idea. Is there's a rule in halacha about giving truma when they gave a tithing to the kohen. They specifically looked for a kohen that was a Talmud Chacham, a scholar, someone who had knowledge. So the same thing here. You have the arava Jew, doesn't have anything, but then you also have the lulav Jew that has the knowledge. So there's a certain extra element in him that reveals the essence. It reveals his essence. In other words, he has an extra element that reveals his essence, the fact that he has Torah. So he represents, he is an entity that's in a certain sense different than the arava. He has an additional element of revealing his essence through his Torah, joined together with the esrog and hadassim, but it's revealed, the essence of his is revealed through because of his Torah. So we join all of these together, and they override the action. So even though they don't have action, it doesn't ruin anything, and they're all joining together. And according to this, what comes out is that the lulav Jew is worse. The way we're understanding it is the lulav Jew doesn't have any good deeds, and he knows a lot. The arava Jew, you could look at him as, can't expect much from him. He didn't grow up in a Jewish community. Don't expect anything from him. He doesn't know anything. The poor guy. It's considered like a pikuach nefesh, like a person who's dying spiritually, and you got to help him, save him. Okay, he's one type of Jew. That's the arava. But what about the lulav? The lulav guy grew up, and the fact that he grew up with Yiddishkeit, he, for whatever reason, doesn't do the mitzvahs. He knows Torah, doesn't do the mitzvahs. So such a Jew we include as well. And that's surprising because you would think such a Jew is maybe should be left out. He's someone who knows and he doesn't do. If someone doesn't know, no problem. We'll accept him. We didn't learn. Person who learned, knows, and still doesn't do, that's a problem. The other guy's a pikuach nefesh, tinak shenishba is called. His child that was kidnapped, his child didn't have any chance to learn, never had a taste of Yiddishkeit. Okay, to have rachmanas on him, but to have mercy on a person that learned. So you would think maybe we shouldn't include him. Nevertheless, Torah says we also have to connect to such a Jew, and you can't fulfill the mitzvah without that guy. The lulav Jew, you also need him to fulfill the mitzvah, and this is basically the understanding of why the lulav and the arava don't need to have all the criteria because they both symbolize someone that doesn't have any maisim, even they don't have good deeds, and nevertheless, we include them together, and the message that comes out from this, that we're including them as well because of their essence, the message is that even such a yid that doesn't do any good deeds, and he has a lot of knowledge, and yet he still doesn't do good deeds, even such a Jew, we have to connect with and join together with. And through doing that, we have unity from all Yidden, and they all are mechaper on each other. They atone for each other by uniting together, and they bring great pleasure to Hashem to the extent that Hashem says, E'ele b'tamar, I will elevate with the date palm, which basically means that I will elevate. E'ele b'tamar means E'ele symbolizes the esrog, Aleph is the esrog, the ayin is the arava, the lamed is the lulav, and the hay is the hadas. That all four join together the tamar because of the tamar, through the tamar, because of that Jew, we're able to, because of the Jew who's the lulav, the tamar means the date palm, which is the lulav. We elevate because of the tamar, and we're able to. Hashem says He elevates because of the tamar. All it says. Hashem says Ani misala. I am elevated. So by doing this mitzvah, we even bring so to speak, elevate Hashem in a spiritual, whatever that means spiritually, that we can bring Hashem to a higher level. And of course, we bring great pleasure to Hashem. Simple level, that's what it means. And this ultimately will bring the Geula, all Yidden, all be together, joined together. And when we're joined together, it'll ultimately bring the Geula Shlema, the complete redemption, speedily. Amen.